Happy Fri-YAY, divas! Here we are again. I feel like I need something else. Can you all give me a different motion to make? I tend to start every single Fri-YAY video like this, which I suppose is on brand for me, but here we are. I gotta switch it up, you know? I I know that the character inside of me for Fri-YAY is calling for something different. So we just need to discover what else, Megan, what else is motivating your character during Fri-YAY to move. So I'll come up with something different next time. We'll see what it is. But so I hope that you are having a beautiful Friday. And if you are not having a lot of yay in your day, I hope that we can get there together by talking about some things that we like. And I just really appreciate that you tune in for these and you share your thoughts with me and you drop me messages and tell me what you like and what you want to hear about. And I love connecting like that. So here we go. So my friend Skate asked me recently, what's your vocal process look like? I've been doing a lot, or what does your warm-up process look like? And been doing a lot of workshops for different courses and classes, and Skate was part of one of these classes. And it's been such a pleasure to share these thoughts with emerging artists, with young artists, and remembering the kinds of questions that I was asking during that time, and feeling those same feelings of a future in front of you, and just wanting to get more information about what it's going to be like. And you know, you can never say what somebody else's experience is going to be, but we can talk about what our own was and is, and hopefully that gives people some context so that they can be aware of the things that they want to experience, and that they can make choices based off of that, plus information that you're giving them. So I hope that these Fri-YAYs are a little similar for you, where I'm not expecting that you do any of the things that we talk about in here, but just using them as another source of information so that you can have context for the things that you're making decisions about. So, I also just got to have an amazing interview session with Susan Eichhorn Young, who teaches studio voice, and she teaches all things seyvoice.com, or I think seyvoice.fyi, and you can find all the things that she does. She is incredible, and we were talking about the beauty of the teacher-student relationship and all of the trust that goes into that. And it reminded me of my own experience with teaching my private studio, my applied students in the past. And it reminded me that that's actually where one of the questions for masterclass episodes on the Studio Class podcast comes from, because I would always start my voice lessons with my students by saying, what are your two intentions for this lesson? And it just, the sneaky pedagogy side of me was asking, because I really didn't want my students to wait until the very end to be like, but Miss Megan, I have this audition coming up for show choir next week, and I'm supposed to learn how to do this thing, and I don't know what to do at the very end of the lesson, rather than telling me up front. So that was the sneaky behind the scenes reasons, but also the pedagogical reason was because I wanted them to realize that they were in charge of the time that we were having together, and that we were actually working towards their goals. Not that I was trying to get them to do what I wanted them to do, but they were coming to me because they wanted to have more access and more flexibility and more facility with their voice. And so that's what we were working on together. And their goals were the things that were guiding the things that we worked on. And so that's actually how that started. If you listen to our studio class masterclass episodes ever, and you hear me talk about what's an intention that you're keeping for yourself right now, that's where that comes from. So that we would always start a voice lesson with, what are your two intentions? And I do bring a lot of that into my own warm-up process. And I ask myself, you know, what's my intention right now? What am I doing here? Why am I doing this, right? Why am I spending this time getting my voice all ready to go to make the sounds that I want to make? So I start with that. And then also there's a lot of getting connected to my body. So often doing other types of activities, and a lot of things where we're working on computers, and a lot of the other things that I do in my life don't necessarily need me to be in touch throughout my entire body, but singing definitely does. And so I need to feel grounded in that. I also need to have that awareness. I need to keep checking in with, what does my body feel like? Do I feel any tension? So I'll start at the beginning with just checking in, just like a body scan of, how am I feeling? What's working? What's feeling tight? Is there anything that's feeling great? Is there anything that I need to just release a little bit? And that can be a little bit of stretching. That could also just be like feeling, am I feeling jaw wise? Am I feeling released and ready to go? And a lot of mine is often making sure that shoulders, I'm feeling like I'm open throughout my chest. And one of the things that I would often talk about with my students, because I have also learned to check in with this all the time, which is finding your breastbone and then making sure that you're lifted here, so that all along your rib cage are open, so that you can take that nice expansive breath. So, and the other part is, I remember being pretty consistent with yoga many years ago, and one of the yoga instructors told me, just think about flat shoulder blades. And that also really helped me think about the opposite side. And when I was thinking about flat shoulder blades, it really helped me find that lifted sternum and open throughout this upper part of my chest, and feeling that I wasn't tensing up in the back either. So just thinking about flat shoulder blades and also lifted sternum helped me find my most expansive breath. And I'll start with that because I really need a lot of awareness. Any sort of breathing awareness is going to be key for what I'm about to do in whatever practice session I'm doing. And then at the very beginning, I'm thinking about low silent breath. I'm thinking about checking in. Probably, I'm going to say this now, and then this whole like Fri-YAY video will just be me being like, inhaling with like a ton of sound. And I don't mean to do that. So I want you to stick with me here, which is, whenever I am thinking about that, getting into that space, it can feel a lot like this. If I'm getting ready for performance, I'm getting ready to go into a first rehearsal, hopefully those are coming back, there's a chance, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for a post-pandemic time where we can really rehearse together again. And so whenever I'm thinking about going into performance, I'm thinking about going into a rehearsal, I am constantly reminding myself about silent inhalation, because I want to make sure that my vocal folds are all the way open, so that I'm inhaling without tension. My lungs are a vacuum. So as soon as I open that, the air just comes rushing in. I don't have to be over here sucking in air. I just have to allow the air to fill my lungs and be ready to be used to produce sound. So honestly, checking in with that, with the inhalation, but just checking in with the breath and the breath awareness is a really big part of getting started, my warm up. And then connecting the breath with the onset of sound, connecting the breath with sound is where I'm going next. So with my students before, and then I do the same thing, is I always started every single voice lesson with a 5-note descending hum. And I do the same thing for my warm-ups. And the reason I would do that for my lessons and I do it for my warm-ups is, if I start with the same thing every single time, it ritualizes that moment of the lesson, and it immediately puts me in the frame of mind for what I'm about to engage in. So anytime I'm doing a 5-note descending hum, I am quickly transported into, it's time to be thinking about vocalizing. It's time to be thinking about how I am producing sound, how I'm resonating, all of that easy vibration. So that 5-note descending hum is really important to me. You can do that lips, bilabial. You can do that like closed lips. You can do that with the NG sound. You could do, whatever hum is working for you. You can do it with an N sound, whatever hum you like. That's fine. And then after that, let's see here. I'm just messing around with my stuff. that after the five note descending hum, that moment of ritualizing the beginning of something, then I'm gonna start to try to like open things up, and I'm just gonna get some like easy free movement through the register. So this might sound like some sirens if I wanted to. This might sound like just opening up a little bit more different patterns, right? I choose a lot of downward moving patterns, downward moving melodies, and to just kind of get things moving to get started. And then I'll start to link that with upward and downward moving exercises. And I'm always going to start with pure vowel sounds. And I'm going to start with like the Italianate pure vowel sounds to check in with the vowel shapes that I'm creating so that I am focusing on resonance first. I'm focusing on that clearest idea of resonance. And I'm wanting to find, where do I feel the vibrations of my voice? And is that the most resonant and clear way for me to do it? So I'm going to be playing around with, am I shaping these vowels accurately so that I'm feeling the resonance, and then singing the patterns that I'm singing that way. Once I'm feeling really warm and awesome in that in that area, then I am also going to start to expand those patterns. So you'll hear like I'm reinforcing the range, right? And reinforcing the range that I'm working on. I'm reinforcing the tessitura that I'm singing most of my work in. And then I'm also going to start to extend on either direction to just kind of open those things up and see if I'm creating smooth, even tone throughout my entire vocal range. Then, like I mentioned, melodic movement up and down. I'm definitely doing stepwise motion to get started. Then I'm going to start adding probably larger and larger intervals. And then I'm going to start working on taking different patterns. This is one of the things that came to me a little bit later in my vocal journey, which was, especially because I sing contemporary classical music or experimental music, avant-garde things, is that I'm in my warm-ups, I was taught, lots of diatonic motion, and I realized that I'm not singing a lot of that in my repertoire. And so I started pulling examples of patterns that I would sing in repertoire and using that, and then doing that in stepwise motion up and down a keyboard in my range, following that same pattern, but different types of intervals. So it's not just thirds, fifths, etc. I'm finding different things. Also, practicing different modes helps me kind of think in different like pitch collections, essentially. So that's where I'm starting to bridge between making sure that technically I'm in the right spot and everything is flowing the way that I want it to, and starting to think about, am I hearing the sounds that I'm about to be exploring through my repertoire? And am I matching my best technical understanding with the phrases, with the motives, with the sequences of things that are going to happen in the repertoire that I'm about to dive into and work on? So that will start to lead me into that, and that has a lot to do with the collection of pitches that I'm using. Then I'll also just kind of check in with some certain articulation sounds. If there's a lot of work that needs to be done with staccato or with space between things, then I'm going to check in with that kind of thing in a warm up, in a technical exercise kind of way, and then transition into the repertoire. And all of this is really just, am I checking in with how my body is being my best instrument? And am I setting myself up? Am I listening to my body and what my body needs to make the sounds that I'm identifying, that I'm envisioning, that I'm wanting to create? And one of the things that I was talking about with Susan in this interview is, one of the things that I think is so important is that there are no good or bad sounds. That I just feel, there's something about being in new music that has taught me this over like a long time, which is, there are no good and bad sounds. There's the sound you mean to make, and there's the sound you don't mean to make. And myself, and then anytime I'm working with a student or working with an emerging professional, then I'm always talking about, is that the sound that you meant to make? If it wasn't the sound that you meant to make, let's talk about what might give you more access and more facility to realizing the vision that you're hearing in your head. So, what is the sound that you mean to make with the instrument that you have? And are you doing that? So that's what I'm checking in with when I'm doing my vocal warm up process. So thank you so much to Skate for asking that question. And obviously there's a lot more to talk about, but I just wanted to give kind of the overall, and that's a process that can happen anywhere. If you have 5 minutes to warm up, if you have 25, 30 minutes to warm up, whatever it is, I find that I'm not beholden to the amount of time. I'm beholden to thinking through these steps. I'm beholden to giving myself a chance to check in with my instrument before I start making the sounds I want to make. So that's it. I'd love to hear more about your process. If there's anything that you have found that is really, really helpful to you for technical exercises and warming up, just let me know. You can drop me a comment here. You can drop me a comment, well, wherever you're watching this. And I'd love to hear from you. So, divas, as always, stay sparkly inside and out, and I will talk to you next time.